Welcome to the LeLinPrewDilla cooking show.
Welcome to the LeLinPrewDilla cooking show. Today we're doing a special episode where we're celebrating the civil rights movement. In this segment, we will be making Subway sandwiches to celebrate the bravery of the freedom riders. The freedom rides of 1961 was inspired by the 1947 journey of reconciliation. At this time, many African Americans will fight for their civil rights, especially with the segregation implemented in the southern states. This caused many activists to spoke up and organize events such as the Mississippi Freedom Summer and the Montgomery Boycott to fight for their civil rights.
What a beautiful sight.
This is the result of our homemade sub sandwiches. The different ingredients represents the obstacles and the people that they have met and faced throughout their trips. With multiple sandwiches being here, it represents their multiple trips throughout the states. With their geographical location being in the south, the riders often experience violent attacks from the white citizens who are disagreeing with their actions. Led by the co-director, James Farmer, the people who are involved in this event are a group of 13 people, with 7 of them being African Americans and 6 of them being white. This racial mixed group travel in an interstate bus throughout the state to fight for their civil rights. The Jim Crow law that associated with this event was the segregation law that was created, which often only served to whites only and give bad servants to blacks. The goal of this event was to bring together civil rights activists to challenge the Supreme Court law decision, which later announced that it was unconstitutional to segregate black and white people. The outcome of this event was very successful, as they challenged the status quo by riding in interstate buses in the South in mixed racial group to challenge the local laws or the customs that enforce segregation seating. This event brought together and bring many activists and bring out civil rights to those who fought it.
In this segment, I'll be discussing Martin Luther King and his significance in the civil rights movement. First, he was born in 1929 and was assassinated in 1968. Growing up, he faced racial prejudice and discrimination. As a result, he became a pastor in order to teach others to treat people with equality. But he was dissatisfied with what he was currently doing. He wanted to do more. And his dissatisfaction was especially shown when Rosa Parks was arrested for not giving her seat up for a white male. As a result, he decided to meet up with other activists and establish meetings in order to organize events such as protests and marches for the sole purpose of gaining social justice and equal rights. So, this is the episode of the College Pie. Give it a taste. The flavors that impacting my mouth in a way nothing has before. In fact, it's almost as impactful as Martin Luther King was during the civil rights movement, which is one of the reasons why I picked pecan pie. And second was because it was his favorite food. Now, Martin Luther King was raised in Georgia, Atlanta, where he grew up in an environment where he was able to witness racial prejudice. He was also able to become a pastor and gain an influence in his environment and community. One of his most trusted partners was Bayard Rustin, who was his trusted advisor who helped organize events such as the March on Washington, as well as the Montgomery bus boycott. One of Martin Luther King's main goals was to get rid of racial segregation along with gain equal rights for all. And one of the main things that contradicted this goal was the Jim Crow laws, right, which were practices that legalized racial segregation. And one of his main strategies to get his goal out there was non-violent marches and protests. And these strategies were very successful as many listened and was motivated by such speeches, protests, and marches.
Welcome. In this segment of the LeLinPrewDilla cooking show, we're going to be cooking pigs in a blanket to represent the sit-in movement in the 1960s. The sit-in movement occurred in 1960 and extended in 1961. This movement started small with the Greensboro sit-ins, but grew as more people heard. Previous events such as Rosa Parks' refusal to give a seat and the first freedom rides in 1947 all led to the sit-ins as it served as an example of peaceful protest. This movement brought civil rights to the national stage as it included 13 states and over 70,000 participants. Diners in the 1950s, they were cool places. They sold food such as pigs in a blanket, as shown here. But they weren't very cool, because they left out African Americans. The sit-in movement was the response to this, and it tried to desegregate the U.S. The sit-in movement was located in over 13 states, and had many communities involved. A large number of people were involved in the sit-in movement, including the SNCC, who organized many sit-in movements across the U.S. The strategy used in the sit-in movement was to find segregated lunch counters, take all the available seats, request service, and then refuse to leave when denied, because of their race. The success of the sit-in movement varied across the U.S. In the North, most cities desegregated, but in the South, some did not. The sit-in movement also gave people the sense of pride and power, and gave them a feeling that they could change their communities by working together.
Welcome to the next segment of the LeLinPrewDilla show. In this segment, we will be talking about none other than Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson was such a cool guy because after the assassination of JFK, he became president, and it would have made JFK proud because he instilled so many of the wonderful acts that JFK would have been proud of, like such as the Civil Rights Act, or even the war against poverty. You know, he had a whole agenda too, the Great Society agenda. Oh, it was wonderful, man. So today, we're going to be talking about pie, a people pie. This people pie is going to be made out of apples. It's an apple pie. It's a people apple pie. And that pie represents the Great Society because, like the Great Society, it is filled with the golden, sweet justice of society.
Wow, I just got done baking this amazing apple pie. Doesn't it look delicious? Just look at that golden crust, those cute little lumps on the side. Oh, and man, that rich aroma of apple is just filling the room. Frankly, I'd love to jump into this pie. It looks delicious, but first, we gotta jump into Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency. Now, don't think I just led you astray, because the reason I baked an apple pie was because it reminds me of that old Southern feel that Lyndon B. Johnson had in him. Now, you see, Lyndon B. Johnson was very democratic, even though he was born in Texas. And because of this, he knew of his way around his opposition. Even though a lot of the folks in the southern states didn't believe in civil rights, he would benefit them and connect with them in ways that changed their minds. Now, because of this, he became the head of Senate, and he was a very charming man. And eventually that led him to become president. And in his presidency, he did a lot of amazing things for the United States. He created an agenda called the Great Society, which mainly focused on building economic structures that would support the impoverished and would also expand civil rights. And he also did a lot of other things that would make Martin Luther King proud, because he helped black communities a lot with things such as his war on poverty. Now, Lyndon B. Johnson liked this pie. Had a little bit burnt on the outside, a little bit weird, maybe. But in the end, it was just an amazing piece of work. Oh man, if only I could jump into this pie. But you know what we're gonna jump into right now? Can you explain the caramelization process that is going on currently?
No.
Okay.
It represents the tiers of the following. Yeah. Eggs. The eggs.
Ready.
What does it look like?
You see that egg cracking skill? And no shell. No shell.
So, the violent attacks are often common and very experienced. They're very experienced with violent.
Sweetness of justice. Iodized salt.
The texture of the middle is not.
Just throw it in. I don't care.
Hey,
It's gonna look horrible.
How do you feel about this, Eric?
do we even preheat the oven?
Oh wait, no, we're supposed to preheat the oven.
Look at that golden crust and those cute little bumps along the edge. It reminds me of Lyndon B. Johnson, because he was kind of cute.